Okay, so this wine is the Clonal Selection Kershaw Elgin Chardonnay from 2018, same vintage. And this is our new release, and it's a wine that we've been making the most for the last 8 years, or eight or so years. We started in 2012. And it was originally why I came to Elgin in the first place, because this region is very much suited to a variety like Chardonnay, because it's not just a cool climate, but it has the right soils, and it has it's not actually too cold. We can get a bit of richness and breadth into the wine, but importantly, it can retain its natural acidity and provide the fruit flavour, which I think is important. So here we're looking for not just yellow fruits or white fruits or anything like that, or stone fruits, but also a bit more savoury character, a bit more restraint, something that is a little bit more beckoning as the wine opens up with time. And importantly, what we're trying to do here is across the range, but importantly with all the Clonal and GPS, is to make wines which are world class. These have got to be put up against the very, very best wines, and these wines therefore need to have the ability to age, and not just age a little bit, but age gracefully and complex with time. So these are, of course, we're drinking them very young, but we would love to see these wines in about 10 years. And certainly for those who have had the 12 is still showing actually remarkably well. So exciting times. So this is grown from a number of different vineyards. We'll spin the bottle here, and you can see there's if you can see, focus in on the thing, you can probably see that there's a lot of different vineyards all around the Elgin region, as I said, or haven't actually said probably, but all the wines that are under the blue label, the blue swash, is all from Elgin different allocated vineyards. These ones are different parcels, and in those parcels what we find is not just different types of Chardonnay, not different grapes, but also Chardonnay of different clones. And what I try and do is I am very into the different types of clonal aspirations or definitions or I suppose flavour profiles. And for me, what I found interesting with Chardonnay is that we find the Dijon clones give the most interesting flavours. They're all from Burgundy originally, but they tend to all give very specific types of flavour. So what we do is we take 3 or 4 of them, and you can see the different vineyards as I mentioned on the back, and in them there will be 2 or 3 different vineyards, different sub-blocks which have different clones in them, and all of them will be fermented separately. In the cellar, what we do is we take them in individually. So, for example, there are here 11 different vineyard blocks, but they will actually come out to be about 20 different vineyard batches, each of a different clone, each on a different soil. Those batches are fermented separately. As I mentioned previously in other wines, that these are all natural ferments. We don't fine or filter them, and we don't add anything to them either. So we avoid acidity or enzyme or any form of yeast. We do a perfectly natural fermentation, and with this Chardonnay, just to kind of get to where it goes, it's all whole bunch fermented. Whole bunch pressed. My apologies. Whole bunch pressed, and it goes straight into barrels. All our barrels are sourced from Burgundy. We don't source anything outside that, and importantly, that enables the cooper to toast them at the level which is appropriate to the grape. So in Burgundy, it's appropriately, obviously, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and all those coopers are relevant because each of our blocks have an algorithm as to match which particular cooper is used for which particular clone or which particular soil. It's a long conversation which we probably don't have time to cover, but the main premise being is that that algorithm applies to all those different clonal blocks. And when we finished, at the end of the time, we leave these wines in barrel for approximately 10 to 12 months. Again, that will be dependent though on the release of manna protein, which is the oatmeal texture that you get on the back of the palate, that little bit of textural succulence that you get, and that's a breakdown, an enzymatic breakdown that happens internally in an anaerobic atmosphere in the barrel, and that signal gives us the opportunity to say, right, let's start looking at racking these into tank ready for bottling. So the 2018 was actually decanted in early January 2019 and bottled soon after. As I mentioned, we don't do anything to it, so the wine is bottled as is, so there will be crystals that will form, tartrate crystals. So, if we do chill it down too much, just be warned. Flavour-wise, this wine has got, again, that similar sort of white fruit profile. Again, I mentioned the restraint, because that cool climate's giving restraint, higher natural acidity, but a little bit more 95 in the blend tends to give a little bit more breadth to it, so it just balances nicely with not just the fruit, but the acidity itself. And the texture still is a bit of a texture. It's not necessarily as as minerally and chalky as, say, the GPS, but it certainly has some form of little bit of a flinty note that just grabs the back palate that I love. So a pithy note, I suppose, would be the best description.